So, the game was just about what I thought afterwards. As a follow-up for Texas, if anybody wants any info, the difference between the last few years and this year was we kicked field goals instead of scoring touchdowns. And so I've discussed that with our guys. Obviously, we were trying to score touchdowns. We just didn't get that accomplished. But much different game for us if we score touchdowns instead of kick field goals. But we live and learn. We move on. And playing a good football team this week. Very senior-dominated offense with experienced quarterback, and they know exactly what they're trying to accomplish, and very good at it. Defense has played really well. Defense is pressured, a lot of man coverage, and blitzing style. So we'll have a work cut out for us, but it's always a fun part. Back at it this week and ready to roll.
You said live and learn in talking about the short yardage situations. Way specific, but do you see some areas where you could have maybe either done things differently or do things differently in the future? How you handle some of those situations?
We've always been good at it. We had success in short yardage last year. We had success this year. Those guys were a little different. Sometimes they're going to win their one-on-one battles. Sometimes we win. So it's not necessarily to do things different. It just happened in that game. We were in positions to score a couple times where we traditionally would score touchdowns. And that's really was the glaring side of what happened in the game. Defense gave up one big play where we got out of coverage down the sideline. Other than that, played pretty good against a good team. Offensively, if you punch in and get those touchdowns, don't kick field goals, it's a different game.
Do you see that as execution, or would you change the plays, or what are your thoughts on this?
Well, it's the same answer. I mean, it's not necessarily one thing or the other. I mean, you have to realize now Texas is going to make some plays also. They've got good guys. They're well coached. So they made some plays, and they ended up winning the game based on making those key plays. Over the last 10 years, we've made the majority of them. This year, we didn't.
Like through 4 games, your offensive line, I think the first 3 you said they played really well. Where do you come down on through 4, and then how was their play in Texas?
They played pretty good. Again, the other team's going to make some plays. If I would just say they played good. I thought they played pretty good.
Not everybody is going to have Texas caliber players, but there'll be coaches that look at what they did schematically, and you'll probably see some of that again. Is that an advantage now that you've seen it, you can kind of map it out?
I don't think it was a surprise. We knew they had the capability of that structure. We had a plan in place for it. Again, I don't want people to think we didn't move the ball. I mean, I don't know how many yards we had. How many yards we have?
Close to 500.
So I don't want to hit the panic button and say we didn't move the ball. We had 2 opportunities to score touchdowns, and we kicked field goals. Okay, that's 8 less points, and then we tried a fake field goal that we could have taken more. So I think it was more so of us just not executing in goal line. We knew they had the capability. I will say that I was surprised that they were willing to be that protective of number 2. I thought it would be a little bit more the other way, but they sold out on stopping him. And if we were more effective in the goal line, we'd be a much different game, in our opinion. But I'm giving them credit. They had a good plan. They're good coaches. Players made plays. Their quarterback made plays. So, that's what happens. 2 good teams playing against each other.
Michael,
Go ahead.
a week ago you said 32 carries was probably too much for Chuba. He had 37 Saturday. LD had 1. I know they doubled Tylen over the top. How do you alleviate some of that from Chuba?
I don't know. That's 5 more than I thought was too many. So trust me, it's been a conversation. We want to keep him healthy. We want him to be fresh. But he's clearly the best runner. So we do what we think we need to do to give us the best chance to score points. But it's not like it's not something that hadn't been discussed.
Is that why you took him off kick returns too? I noticed wasn't on the depth chart anymore there.
He's
part of it, Mike, I know you guys have liked what you saw in the spring and at times when they've been healthy of Jamil and Desmond. Is part of it not being able to get them out there and see what they're capable of as far as finding an alternate back?
Well, those guys haven't been in a position to practice, and so it's hard to get guys ready to play when they can't practice. I mean, it's pretty easy answer. They're back now practicing, so we should get a better feel for how some of those guys are doing.
Mike, your conversation with Spencer between drives, do you like how he's processing and how he's kind of learning on the go here?
Mm-hmm. I do. I think he's doing really well. And I thought he handled the last game pretty well for a young guy.
What did you see after he threw? I mean, obviously that possession after he throws that interception early.
Terrible throw. Guy was wide open. He just overthrew the guy.
The next possession, you guys go down and score, and he plays really well. How did you see him respond to that?
He responded, well, let me back up. You remember I told you he got frustrated in the Tulsa game? He didn't get frustrated at all Saturday night. Vegas would give you 5-1 odds that he was going to get frustrated Saturday night, and we would have all lost our money because I would have bet that he would get frustrated. He didn't. He handled the situation very well. He had a clear mind. He was responsive. He understood what was going on. At times, did he know he made a mistake? Sure. Wasn't flustered, played well, competed, ran hard. So I was pleased with him at that point. Now, I'm not going to just dump the Kool-Aid on my head yet. I mean, he's still young, so don't put him out there yet. He's a hard worker. The game's important to him. He loves to play football. He competes, but he's still playing a game in an offense where quarterbacks handle a lot with not a lot of experience at this time.
Do you think what frustrated him maybe at Tulsa was different than? I know you know because you're there, but do you think?
Sometimes I don't know, even though I'm there. Trust me.
The source of the frustration, did you feel like that was at all different and how he just sort of flipped the switch at Texas?
The games are similar. I'm going to say he just hopefully grew up a little bit. I'll also say this, he played really well. So let's say percentages are at some point in his career, he's going to have a game like everybody else does. Mason's had his games where he threw 3 picks, and we'll see how he handles that part of it when that happens. So he was pretty successful Saturday night, and that might have helped. But I'm hoping that he's maturing and learning, hey, just settle down. It's a long game.
You've been in a lot of locker rooms, winning and losing.
More winning though.
More winning,
Yeah.
much more winning.
Or I wouldn't be standing here right now.
That's a good
Yeah.
point. In the losing locker rooms, I'm always, because I get to be in there too, I always kind of judge how the players take a loss, because I want to see hurt. I thought that locker room Saturday night, if I was going to say the appropriate response for a team that hurt and is going to work their tails off to make sure they don't feel that way again, that locker room felt that way. Your thought?
Yeah. College football is funny. You have you have 12 with the exception of open weeks. You have 12 1-week battles, and we pour everything into those 6 days of preparation, just like most everybody else in the country does. And then on Saturday, you get determined whether you were successful or not. And they took ties away. So for the most part, there's no tie, and you either are successful or you're not. So they're hard because of the work that we put in. As I've said many times before, and again in the locker room and also last night with the team, college football is all about that one's over no matter what happens, and you got to get to the next one. We try to not take a celebration or disappointment into the next week and let it affect our play. There's going to be some natural emotions that take place 3, 4, 5 hours after the game. I mean, for coaches like myself, all night, you wake up, think about it, wake up, think about it, and then you got to get off to the next game. That's just the way it is.
In your, really, last 10 years, it's been very rare that you lost a game. So what is the key, you think, on Sunday after a loss, to get it come back? I mean, that you're able to...
You talking about elaborating on what we just talked about?
Pretty much, yeah. I mean,
The thing I do is what I've learned in doing this for a long time. One of the few things that I think has been productive for us that comes from me is our message stays the same all the time. And I know fans and perception and people don't want to hear that, but it's just like the old saying, hey, you got a big game this week. Well, the reason that game's big is because we won the last one. And we might have played somebody that you didn't think was a good opponent, but if we don't win that one, this next game's not a big game. You can't throw all your eggs in one basket. You have to be consistent every Saturday during preparation. And so I gave him the message. After the game, I told him what I thought we did wrong, told him where I thought the coaches failed. As an organization, we live it, okay? We come back, but Sunday it's over. Guys that need treatment get treatment. We get in our meetings, we start preparing for Kansas State, and we go on down the road. And there's a lot of times that I've had to say, look, you guys get out, enjoy the victory, be smart, get home early, try to rest. But when you come back, if you're hanging your hat on what you just did, you're going to get your butt knocked off the next week. And that's what my message has been to them for, I don't know, I figured that out after about 5 years probably.
How long did it take you to learn how to appreciate
Probably about 5 years. I told you guys, if I was the athletic director, I would have fired me within 3 or 4 years. Just, I don't know, you just get better at what you do, or you think you get better. I mean, and so I've learned to handle those situations, and I know who's out there. I know what our talent level is. I know the talent level of teams we're competing against. I know a lot of that part I know. So I have to make decisions based on what's actually going on without my emotions being involved like a fan does. Like I tell you, I get home and my 14-year-old scolds me, who's the moron that called the fake field goal? Why don't you run quarterback sneak? 19 other things. And most of what he says is correct. But I have to take all that into consideration based on what's transpired and make the best decisions to move forward.
Coach, you mentioned last week how you thought Sean Gleason would stay a little bit calmer than past offensive coordinators. How do you feel like he handled coaching through this first loss?
I thought he was good. Now, there's a difference between being emotional and being erratically emotional and out of control. So he is emotional about football. He gets emotional during games, but it's like parenting. You have a kid yet?
No.
Okay, so it's like parenting. So when you're raising your first kid, you get emotional when they do things wrong and you overreact, and then you come back later and you're like, that wasn't worth all that. You're better off just chilling for a while and then teaching and coaching and parenting and then going back and putting punishment in place. Well, it's the same thing in coaching. And Sean gets excited and all that, but then he can go right back to the next area and focused. There are coaches that lose their marbles and can't. It takes them 10 or 12 plays to refocus. But he's pretty good at that.
Mike, you've had offensive coordinators, several, come at the job from different perspectives. I assume Sean's a little bit like your such was, and learning and different things. Through 4 games, I'm just kind of curious, how is your interaction with Sean maybe different than it was with your such as say year 5, 6, 7, week to week, game to game, as a first year guy?
Those two, it's the same. From where they came from, I think. Dana didn't care what I said. Monken and I traveled to Vegas together 20 years in a row, so he didn't care what I said. But because of Mike and Sean's level, I think there's a little more input. But it's real clear. You can ask any of our offensive coaches. When I go in that meeting room, I tell them, look, I'm not the head coach, okay? I'm a position coach just like you. I'm giving you information. This is what I see. This is my opinion. You can use it if you want. If you don't, you can throw it in the trash can. And I tell them that. But when I walk out of here, I just want to at least give you my information on 30 years of coaching offensive football. And as Mike's career progressed, he learned to throw more in the trash. Sean probably is a little more into what I have to say, to be honest with you.
Coach, K-State hired Chris A, did you know him very well? B, did you
I didn't know him, had seen him a lot. They played every year on TV in the championship, right, late in the year. I think it was kind of the same time as the other games, so it just happened I see him a lot. I thought it was a really good hire based on his maturity, the success he had. The game at this level is no different than the game at his level. now. I mean, maybe he has more media, maybe he has different budgets, maybe he's got things that you would have to ask him that he didn't deal with there that he has here. But the actual X's and O's, it's the same. I thought it was a smart hire. I don't know him. I don't know the AD. I don't know anybody. I just thought that guys had a lot of success, and there's been people that have proven you can take a guy from that level and bring him to this level and have success. We've done it here with coordinators. So I thought it was a smart hire.
Through the first 3 games, their quarterbacks only rushed the ball 10 times. He averaged 10 a game last year. How differently are they utilizing him, though, under this new regime?
A lot of similarities in everything they're doing. Concepts, 21 personnel, 22 personnel, a lot of pull plays. They want to run power. Special teams is essentially the same. They had 2 blowout wins. I'm guessing that played a role. I would say that he will rush the ball more than 3 times against us, because that's been his average, 3.3. And in blowout wins, you just don't see it as much. I would say that that's a little bit more of their package. I'm just guessing.
Mike, he brought his own offensive line coach, and when you needed to fill that spot, you were able to get Charlie Dickey, who you've been really hoping to get. One of the strengths of their team is that offensive line. They're seniors, and they're all guys Dickey coached.
And the tight end's a senior.
Yeah, how much can Dickey help a little bit, just knowing the personalities and what makes those offensive linemen click with your defense?
Probably 0. Yeah, Charlie's got his hands full trying to get our guys lined up. We haven't. I don't know. We have so much video now, and you have all their games, and I think you get more off that than. I guess he could come in and say, hey, this guy's whatever, but I don't know how much that actually factors in the game.
Charlie had some specific things you were wanting him to improve on the field. How do you feel that's disappointing for you?
Oh, I think he's doing well. I mean, when I hired him, I was looking for a loyal guy that could build relationships with players and has been successful in coaching what he does. That's a different world down there. And so we wanted him to come in and carry on for where Josh was. We've recruited some really quality young people the last couple years and developed them. That's what they had done at Kansas State, taking guys that maybe other schools didn't want, but we developed them. They did it. He did it here. So that was a good fit. And then he needs to bring in his own little concepts and things that he thinks can help, just like Sean does. And then they all kind of pull together.
In terms of the discipline, physicality, are you seeing the things you want to see?
I think we're playing. I don't think there's any question we're a much more disciplined team right now. I'm going to use the same quote. I'm not dumping the Kool-Aid out completely, but our first penalty was like 9 minutes to go in the third quarter the other day. And then we had, Landon Wolf, they called him on the new rule. I don't even know how you fault him for that. He's just trying to play football, but I understand the rule. And then we had a couple face mask calls. But for the most part, we were definitely a more disciplined team. And then I think we're becoming a tougher team based on the development of our tight end play.
Mike, after the game, Spencer said that he wanted all the fingers pointed at him and that he needed to be a better leader. That's not something you really want to see from him as a leader, taking all the blame from that loss.
Oh, I think you have young people that he's being emotional afterwards. He needs to learn to point fingers at other people, spread the wealth. That's what I do, so he's just young and emotional. He's very competitive, and he gets really emotional when he talks about football, and he wants to win. He's come from a program that's won a lot of football games. So that's a good thing. The other that I joked about is not good, and so he's saying I can be better. And I think that's what he should do. In all reality, what you're saying is correct. He'll learn to how to delegate some of that and work together as a group.
Are the Big 12 coaches required this type of teleconference, or is it just appreciated by the league?
Big 12 media? I don't know. Can I get out of that? Are you sure? You know what? I need to find out because because really, I don't know if I'm by contract obligated to that or not. And I got a C in political science, and so I ought to be able to read through that contract and figure it out. He's wasting y'all's time. You have real journalists that are out there trying to do their job, and he's eating up their phone call time. And look, everybody in this room's busy. Y'all have deadlines, and I'm busy, believe it or not. I don't have time for that. I would rather talk about football. And I thought it was disrespectful. That's just me. That's my personal. Well, I mean, the guy just passed away, and let's just let it be what it is. But more importantly, you have real journalists here working their butt off, and you got somebody down here jacking around. I just think that's a waste of y'all's time. That's my opinion.
Earthquake game here against Penn State. I mean, you would agree, I'm sure, that Bedlam has been a really interesting, entertaining, great game almost every year. But would you consider K-State to be like number 2 on that list in regards to really interesting?
I mean, here's the deal, Bill. You've been covering us for a long time. We have a lot of interesting games around here, and there's been a bunch of them against Kansas State. But we've had some against Iowa State in the last 5 years. Texas Tech. I mean, this is a pretty entertaining league. You don't really know what you're going to get week to week in this league based on a lot of different things. But what you're saying is right. We have had some very entertaining games against Kansas State.
Earthquake, if I remember, Kenny and I were sitting together. That's
I don't remember that.
Sense it, right? You didn't realize.
Somebody told me there was an earthquake, but I don't even remember what game that was.
2011. First Street on the roof.
First what?
First Street was a roof doing a live hit on sports.
We were actually.
I didn't even know that
We were in
either.
the locker room, and you didn't really feel it down there when it happened.
Yeah.
I didn't know what had happened until I came back upstairs.
I felt it and thought somebody was jumping up and down in the west end zone because it felt like there was still crowd out in the stadium. That's what it felt like.
Yeah, I was, it's underground down there,
It's
so
underground.
so yeah, if there's one coming on, y'all might want to get underground.
Can we go through the thought process of the fake football?
No, I would rather not talk about fakes. I'd rather, especially ones that don't work. But there's reasons for me to not talk about that.
On Wednesday, you have the celebration of life. Is the team going to take part in that? And what's kind of your hope for that event?
Well, I will. Our hope is a celebration. A guy that lived an unbelievable life, and we should be celebrating for everything, a lot of things involved. But our guys are very, very limited with what they're doing. The times, I think, are set for the celebration Wednesday, correct?
3 o'clock.
Yeah, so our players are in class till 1:30ish, 1:45ish, and then their window starts again at 5:30. They go back to school, several of them. So they're in a very limited window for practice. So they'll work, coaches will work, I'll come over. And the truth of the matter is with Mr. Pickens, I think that he would appreciate me being there, and then he would say, you need to go to work. That's what he did all of his life. And so I will be there and take care of all that and do that. And looking forward to it, and the family will be there and give my condolences and respects, and then I'll head out of there and go back to practice.
I know it happened before you got on the field, but did you see that Texas did have a moment of silence for him?
I did not see it. Somebody had mentioned it to me, but I did not see it. It's pretty nice. Chris is a first-class guy, and so I'm sure that he was behind that.
Do you know of any plans for this game here, the first one back home since his passing?
That's way over my pay grade. Yeah, I got my hands full with Kansas State. But Wednesday is a special day for all of us, everybody, and we'll be very well represented there. And I think it's the way it should be, is a celebration for an unbelievable life.
When did you guys figure out you were going to get Israeli Antoine back, and was that cool for him, considering he's practiced all this time and not going to play?
We found out this week, and I should say this week, the middle of the week, and it was fun. He's a little bit out of playing shape, which you can imagine. Last time he played, I think, was like Thanksgiving a year ago. But it was good to have him. He's worked hard. He's a really quality young man and should get better each week.
Yeah, he made a couple of tackles, and one of them was early, which I thought it might take him a while to get in the flow, but I think he probably got tired as the game
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, he's not quite in playing shape yet.
Not to beat a dead horse, but did you ever get a good explanation on the spot and why it wasn't reversed on Spencer's run?
You know, once it gets to that phase of all the interview, one, I can't tell because I'm just looking on a jumbotron, and you know, the guys on the field, whether they have been instructed or not, don't ever commit themselves one way or the other, and they don't and are not obligated to actually tell you what happened or why, for good reason. If I was in charge of them, Greg, head of the officials, I'm sure he's told them, look, y'all need to stay out of it because you got nothing to do with it. Those people up there are making decisions, so don't commit yourself one way or the other with head coaches. So they don't ever give an explanation. They just say, hey, it is what it is.
Is that the type of thing, I know in the past, like you can send stuff to the league, things you may have questions about? Is that
Not
the type
reviews.
of thing? Not reviews.
The last time I did that was when the SEC ejected Bundage at the whatever game we were at, South Alabama, and I you know, I'm so bad. I said I don't understand, and they came back and said that yeah, you were right. That was the last time I sent one, and I don't think that does any good either. I think you're just wasting your time.
Along the same lines, can you guys pay attention to quote-unquote injuries the opponent during offensive drive? Discuss that.
I mean, are you talking about during the game? Somewhat, yeah. There's discussions that take place, and injuries during a game can be more advantageous for the other team than like during the week. Like if you ask me, I'm going to say I hope so or whatever. The other coaches are going to say the same, or they're not going to give you information. But during the game, it's pretty obvious. So there has been and can be some strategic value in a backup player coming in.
Is that something that you sort of resign yourself to? You're going to have to deal with maybe a guy taking a fall and trying to slow down your momentum? Or
Oh, you talking about that?
Yeah.
Well,
Sorry, I didn't ask that.
I've already, because you said that, it choked me up. Anyway, I've already given you last year what I would do. Okay, if I proposed it, it went down the drain. But if a player comes out of a game injured, he can't return to the game till the change of possession is flipped. You don't have that issue anymore. People say, well, if a kid's really hurt, if he's really hurt, he's not coming back anyway. And if he's really hurt, he's not coming back in the next 2 or 3 plays. So, but it's part of the game. Can't do anything about it. I think it's bad for football. We don't do it. But until they say if that young man is assisted off the field, he can't come back in until we change possession, it's not ever going to stop.
Did you see Spencer's frustration? It may have been like the 6th time that it happened. Stopped the play because of injury.
I think they had some legitimate injuries, but I didn't see Spencer. No, But I think they did have some guys get hurt legitimate. I'm not saying Texas did that. I don't. They had some guys go out and not ever come back. So, and I'll be real honest with you. I don't know that they did it at all. Now, we've played in games and bowl games where it happened throughout the game, and it was ridiculous. But I don't think Texas has had that plan in place. Some of those guys never came back, right? Like 4 or 5 guys. So
Herman gave an injury report in his post game right off the bat.
Yeah.
He reported 4 guys that couldn't play next
So
week.
I didn't think, if that's what you're asking, I don't think Texas was doing that. I think they had some guys that really got hurt. People have done that in the past against us, particularly in bowl games.
It seems like having players not be able to come back to the next change of possession could work. Do you think you'll ever push that to
I've
the
tried
league
it.
again?
I'm not very good with panels and committees. I don't have a lot of patience. I'm going to give you the information. I want an answer. I don't want to hear a lot of people talk. And that doesn't work with committees and panels.
Push the safety aspect of it, making sure the kid, you need to take that time to make sure the kid's really not injured.
Right. But
Not
we're
rushing
we're
back
getting
on the
off
field.
on, again, I'm going to, my staff meetings are about 6 minutes long in the morning because I don't have a lot of time to waste time on stuff that's a non-factor. And I'm not downgrading the question, but there's a difference between what has happened in the past and what doesn't happen. It's real clear cut. If a kid's laying down, he goes over to the sideline, he stands there, the trainers don't even come over to him. He goes back in 2 plays later, which has happened to us a bunch. Now you know you got a problem.
Mike, you and Bill Snyder have had a relationship going back to your playing days.
Mm-hmm.
What's it like for you this week, personally, knowing that he's not going to be on the opposite end of the sideline?
Yeah, you know, he's always been a special part of the Big 12 and this league and old Big 8 days. And at some point it all comes to an end, but it's just unusual for him to not be there. One of the things that I look forward to every year was my 7 or 8 minute conversation with him pregame in the middle of the field. I just enjoyed those conversations with him, and it's unusual that he's not there.
Mike, I should have followed up better when we were talking about Sean and Mike before, but you were talking about how you handle offensive coordinator meetings during the week. Game-wise, does it change at all? I don't even know how that works as far as, Sean calling a play, the guy signaling it in. I mean, is it the same?
With me?
Yeah, whether it's...
Yeah, I would say I'm about the same. I'll throw out 5 or 6 things that, because I don't have to think like he does. He has to think fast all the time. So I can take more into account, and every once in a while I'll say, hey, we might think about this, or, every time we've done this, we're +8. And I'll throw stuff out. Sometimes they take it, sometimes they don't. Most of the guys that have been here I don't say anything unless I'm pretty sure it's going to work, because I don't like to say I told you so. I like to be able to say I told you so. So I'm usually pretty hesitant until I know if it's really going to work.
So are you saying the bulk of your coaching, the coaches, is done in the week?
Oh yeah, all those things. Play callers are play callers, though, right? There's guys that have a gift that are good play callers, and you can have some really, really, really good football coaches, and they're not a good play caller because they can't think fast enough. But they can process during the week. But to call plays, you got to think really fast, particularly in our offense. So it's a little different.
Mr. Sanders, young quarterback, just suffered his first loss of the season. Are you curious to see how he responds in these first couple of series heading into this week?
He was really good last night. He was right back to being, aggressive and let's go and getting everybody and moving around, and he's right back in it. He's zoomed in and focused. So it'll be interesting to see how he plays, but he's pretty serious on Sunday night in a laid-back practice, so I think he's doing fine.
Even if the game didn't end the way you wanted Saturday, just reflect a little bit on a 7-3 decade against Texas. I mean, would you consider that it's got to be one of the greatest achievements in the history of the program?
Well, we talked about this last week, and for me to sit up here and say that it's not an accomplishment for us to have success against a team like Texas, everybody ought to get up and walk out of here and send the guy in that called on the Big 12 call today and leave him in here. All that money's going to the baseball stadium. Can't even fix the damn wall over there. Can you put that on Holder's list? Yes, it is, and from day one, the one thing that I said is we wanted to develop a culture and have a team that when we went out on Saturday and played, the fans could come and enjoy it because they know, what, my team has a chance to win. And I think we've gotten to that level where when we go and play, we could have played better. I'm not taking anything away from Texas. I'm saying, I don't want to repeat what I already said, but if the fans know that, then they come, there's 35,000. There's a number now, somebody said, how many people don't come in the game anymore out here? There's a number or a high number of fans. Like the first game we had, full house or sellout, whatever, and there was another so many thousand of them now that just go out and hang out. Well, that's awesome. We want them all in the stand, but we want that environment. So it's an accomplishment, and you're never going to get to the point we are now if you don't do some things like we did with Texas. Now I'm sure Tom grinded on them all week. I don't know. I need to ask him, but I'm sure he grinded on them all week about they've been down there, they kicked your butt however many years in a row, blah, blah, blah. And so it probably was a little bit of a motivation advantage, but whatever that matters, I don't know.
Last question, please.
Sammy Oklahoman was a guy that seemed to be on the field a lot toward the end of the game. What has he done to sort of elevate himself?
Well, he's coming along, and he's youthful, but he's got some mass to him and some strength, and they just get a little bit better each week. I wish I could fast forward that group a year from now and let them go play Saturday, because they'll have a big challenge Saturday with what these guys do. But it just gets a little bit better each week.